Adjective is a major word class that modify or describe nouns. Adjectives do not modify verbs or adverbs or other adjectives. In Kazakh, as in other languages, adjectives have different functions and degrees, as well as there are certain ways of forming adjectives. Today, we are going to learn how to form adjectives, when to use them, and what their functions are. Adjectives have two different functions such as attributive function and predicative function. In the attributive function, adjectives precede the noun that they modify. For example, көркем қала, beautiful city, биік ағаш, tall tree, sütlü şay, tea with milk. In predicative function, on the other hand, adjectives function as subject complements and therefore usually follow the noun or noun phrase that they are describing. Simply put, adjectives act as the predication of a sentence modifying the subject of the sentence. For example, бала ақылды, the child is smart. Мен қуаныштымын, I am happy. Сен биіксің, you are tall. As you can see from the sentence, there is no linking verbs linking subjects and the predicates such as in English to be, to feel, or to seem. On the contrary, the adjectives take the personal markers. қуаныштымын, биіксің. In addition, in order to express various tenses or other grammatical meanings, the copular markers such as еді or ekin can follow the adjectives in predicative position. For example, мен арық едім, I was thin. Ол күшті екен, apparently he is strong. In addition to having original adjectives, Kazakh has bulk of suffixes which can form adjectives from noun stems or verb stems. In particular, the suffix лық, л, сіз, шыл, and so on can yield adjectives from noun stems. For example, tuzlu, salty, is from tuz, salt. Қалалық, urban, is from қала, city. Ұйқышыл, sleepy, is from ұйқы, sleep. Қайғысыз, without worry or carefree, is from қайғы, worry. Жаздық, summertime, is from жаз, summer. Example, жаздық киім, summer clothes. The suffixes ғыш, шақ, ынды, ғыр, and so on can form adjectives from verb stems. For instance, білгіш, smart, is from bil, to know. Ұялшақ, shy, is from the verb ұял, to be shy. Жасанды, artificial, is from жаса, to make. Өткір, sharp, is from the verb өт, to pass. Тапқыр, innovative, is from tap, to find. Adjectives come in three forms within sentences known as degrees, such as absolutive, comparative, and superlative. Absolutive adjectives describe something in its own right. Example, ескі киім, old clothes, ыстық күн, hot day. Қызыл алма, red apple, тар үй, narrow house. Comparative adjectives make a comparison between two or three things. The comparative is formed by adding the two different types of suffixes to the absolutive forms. The first type is рақ, рек, ырақ, ірек. For example, жақсырақ, better, көбірек, more, ұзынырақ, longer, үлкенірек, bigger, жақынырақ, closer. The second type is лау, леу, дау, деу, and тау, теу. Example, қызылдау, redder, кішілеу, smaller, суықтау, cooler, жеңілдеу, lighter. At this point, you may be wondering how we know which suffix to use when expressing comparison. In fact, these two types of suffixes are basically same, so you can use whatever you want. Example, жақсырақ or жақсылау, better. Көбірек or көптеу, more. Ұзынырақ or ұзындау, longer. But the first type, rak, rik, irak, irik, is used more often than the second type. For instance, жақынырақ отыршы, please sit closer. Тезірек болшы, please be faster. The second type is more old-fashioned, more polite, and often used as a predication. Example, ол жердің қатынасы қолайсыздау. Transport in that place is less convenient. Сенен гөрі ол жақсылау. Compared to you, she or he is better. In these two examples, the comparative forms қолайсыздау and жақсылау are used in the predicative position. But you also can say қолайсызырақ or жақсырақ. It is your choice. The expression қазір қолымыз қысқалау боп тұр. At the moment, we are a bit short of cash is a rather euphemistic or mild expression. Although the adjectives with these two types of suffixes are called comparative, within a sentence they express a relatively high degree of a given quality though. The actual comparative is expressed by adding the ablative case to the comparative object. Compare the following examples. Ол менен үлкен. He or she is older than me. Ол менен үлкенірек. He or she is a bit older than me. Мұрат Оспаннан биік. Мұрат is taller than Оспан. Мұрат Оспаннан биіктеу. Мұрат is a bit taller than Оспан. Superlative adjectives convey something has the highest degree of the quality in question. The superlative form of an adjective is formed by placing the adverbial ing, most before the absolutive form. For example, ең жаман, worst, ең қысқа, shortest, ең жаңа, newest, ең маңызды, most important. There are some exercises to help you understand how to use the superlative adjectives in sentence. Бұл ең жақсы film. This is the best movie. Бұл ең жаңа кітап. This is the latest book. Ол ең жаман адам. She or he is the worst person. Бұл ең қызықты әңгіме болды. This is the most interesting story. It should be noted that some adjectives have intensive forms, which are produced by reduplicating the initial syllable and adding p, which are often used in Kazakh. For example, таза, clean, тап-таза, very clean. Жаңа, new, жап-жаңа, brand new. Ұқсас, same, ұп-ұқсас, exactly the same. Жақсы, good, жап-жақсы, very good. Салқын, cool, сап-салқын, very cool. Әдемі, beautiful, әп-әдемі, very beautiful. Please keep in mind that these intensive forms are different from the superlative. They only reinforce the absolutive form, not the highest degree. There are some examples to familiarize you with how to use them in practice. Үй іші тап-таза екен. The inside of the house was obviously very clean. Мақаланы жап-жақсы жазыпсың. As I can see, your article is well written. Әп-әдемі болып апсың ғой. Қайда барасың? You look very stunning. Where are you going? Adjectival phrases or complex adjectives are formed from a limited range of adjective-noun combinations. For example, бес жасты бала, a 5-year-old kid. Сары шашты қыз, a blonde-haired girl. Uzun boylu kişi, a tall person. Екі кісілік орын, a place for 2 people. 2000 теңгелік кітап, a 2000 теңге book. Today we have learned about the formation, use, and the different degrees of adjectives in Kazakh. I hope the content is clear and not complicated. And as always, thank you for watching.